I would like to thank the 4 candidate cities for their excellent bids and for their dedication to the Olympic Games. Your projects are of the highest quality. Your vision for the Olympic movement is inspiring. Thank you for your hard work, energy and commitment to sport and its values. Like in every competition, there can, however, only be one winner.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the envelope containing the results will be brought to the President by a young Danish athlete, the talented Signe Sjølund Pedersen, who will be competing in the very first Youth Olympic Games in Singapore next year.
This is the moment, that is the envelope.
I have the honor to announce that the games of the 31st Olympiad are awarded to the city of Rio de Janeiro.
Well, there we have jubilation in the hall. Rio de Janeiro has become the first South American city to win the right to host the Olympics. Of course, jubilation for them, disappointment for Madrid. Madrid have run a fantastic campaign, beating the expectations of many to get to this final two, but Rio have done it. The emotional pull, the President Lula of Brazil, who's been lobbying here for the last few days, saying this is Brazil's turn. This is going to be a decade of sport, of course, now for Brazil, which is hosting the Football World Cup in 2014, now the Summer Olympics in 2016. They have worked so hard, and just to put in perspective the scale of this achievement, when London won the right to host the 2012 Olympics, Rio did not even make the shortlist of 5. Rio was eliminated 1 year before the final vote by the IOC. The IOC didn't think at that stage Rio was a strong enough candidate. Now they have gone and beaten Barack Obama's home city, Chicago, Madrid with the support of Juan Antonio Samaranch Sr., the former president of the IOC, and Tokyo as well. Celebrations for Rio, and of course you can imagine now what that means to the people in the room, because that is the president of the Brazilian Olympic Committee, Carlos Nuzman. I actually spoke to him when Rio knocked out a year out for their contest of 2012. He was very gracious in defeat. I'm sure he'll be very gracious in victory. Pelé, well, what an important role he has played, saying the one disappointment in his career was he hasn't been able to compete in an Olympics, because in the days when he was playing, professionals were not allowed to play football in the Olympics. Well, I'm sure he won't be playing in 2016, but he'll be taking a close involvement in that football tournament. There will be so much emotion in the room, because when you have worked for 4 years for one prize, there is simply no second best. There is a winner and there are 3 losers. There are no runners-up prizes. All the glory goes to one city. That city is Rio. And I think there will be many people within Olympic circles who will welcome the announcement that Rio is a winner. I know there's been some concern perhaps of European bias if Madrid was to follow London as another Olympic city, as another European Olympic city. So although there's disappointment amongst those Madrid members, those Madrid delegates who have worked so hard, they know that their time will come. Eventually there will be another European Olympics, and what Madrid has done here over the past few days will certainly put them in good stead to bid again to host an Olympics. But that won't be what's going through their mind right now. You can see already the Madrid delegation emptying out, but for those who have won the right to host the games, it is a night of jubilation. Those are the scenes in Rio de Janeiro, of course, where the party, well, they love a party in Rio, don't they? And they know that this is going to be a party that's going to go all the way through to 2016, the Football World Cup, and then the Olympics. One of the world's greatest sports-loving nations is going to host the world's 2 biggest sporting events just 2 years apart. What a campaign they have run, actually led from a press perspective by Mike Lee, who spearheaded London's campaign. Another major victory for him, and in many ways this is a better victory for him than winning for London, because London was always seen throughout that process as a strong contender. contender. When Rio first entered this race, not many people gave them much of a chance, but they have run such a good campaign. It was clear over the past few months that more and more IOC members were beginning to believe that yes, Rio could put on a good games. And when you see the kind of imagery we're seeing now, but also the imagery from the big videos of Rio de Janeiro, it was very clear the kind of emotional pull that Rio had. The wonderful landmarks that no other city could possibly match. But let's cross live now to Rio and Gary Duffy.
Hello, and what a wonderful day for the people of Rio de Janeiro. There is absolute unbridled joy here on Copacabana Beach. The golden sand has disappeared in a sea of green and yellow. The traditional colours of Brazil, and this sport-loving nation is looking forward to an absolute feast of sport in the years ahead. When the announcement came in, there was always a bit of nerves, this apprehension that whether the Olympic organisers would have faith in Rio de Janeiro, but when the announcement came in, the silver glitter was released into the air. People jumped up and down, were dancing, singing and hugging, and I think the sensation here all the time was that this was South America's moment, that for the first time the games could come to South America, and that the doubts could be set aside about the funding of the Olympics, about the crime that undoubtedly plagues Rio de Janeiro, but this was this city's time and moment, and the people of Rio de Janeiro have been streaming out of their offices onto the beach, which is the focus of so much of life here. The party is fully underway, and it may last the whole weekend.
Well, Rio Carnival doesn't start for a few months. They might be partying all the way through to Carnival, but what a fantastic backdrop that is going to be for an Olympic Games. You can imagine the sailing in the harbour, the mountain biking, for example, the beach volleyball on Copacabana Beach. There is no doubt that Rio will make a magnificent setting for an Olympic Games. It's just the issues now which will have to be addressed are some of those mentioned by Gary Duffy. The crime, for example. Yes, Rio does have a problem with crime. They have addressed that during the bidding process. The IOC said they were content with that. Also a bit of a lack of hotel accommodation. They're going to put some cruise boats in the harbour to try to cope with that. But that's a winning city. What about the defeated city, Madrid? Such disappointment there, I'm sure. And Steve Kingston's for us there. Steve, sum up the mood in Madrid right now.
Well, the sun is setting over the Royal Palace and people are dejectedly streaming out of the square in front of it, Plaza de Oriente. So near and yet so far from Madrid, a city that was written off by the bookmakers and many commentators before today, simply because the 2012 games are coming to Europe, to London. Many people thought it was crazy for Madrid to believe that the games could come here again 4 years later, but they came close. They beat Chicago and Tokyo. They did better than anyone expected. And there was a bit of an axis, really, between